baseline of humans is that, oh, I can't do it because that person's greater than me. Absolutely not. Greatness is literally in every person. And it's my job to unlock those who raise their hand.
Welcome to Tip Top Grow Up Your Business with Metronomics. Join me, Shannon Susko, and Metronomics certified coach, Jed Roberts.
We'll be talking to business thought leaders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and business team coaches who have all taken the journey to grow up their businesses to their tip top.
We'll be sharing strategies, systems, stories on how you can grow your company up at the speed you want.
If you're searching for your path to the tip top and feel your time is running out, then this podcast is for you.
Well, welcome back to Tip Top Grow Your Business with Metronomics, the podcast where we dive deep into the systems, strategies, and stories that drive high growth businesses. I'm your host, Shannon Susko, and today we have an incredible guest, a good friend that truly understands the art of transformation and peak performance. Gina Mollicone-Long is an international best-selling author, incredible speaker, and co-founder of the Greatness Group. Welcome, Gina.
Thanks for having me.
It's been, probably way too long. You probably should have been here a long time ago. We've definitely been in the same worlds of focusing in on how to grow leaders and in turn, obviously make an impact on their organizations. I want to jump in at the very beginning and talk about, your mission and what you've been, the mission you've been on for quite some time about helping people uncover their greatness. What inspired you? Why did you start this journey? And how has it evolved over the years?
Well, honestly, I don't know how far back you want to go, right? Like I was a little girl in Windsor, and like my origin story goes way back. Like my dad used to make these figure skating rinks in my backyard and my friends were really good and I wasn't that good. And so I did this show to showcase my good friends. And we raised money. We raised $5 for the Ronald McDonald House, and I made everybody donate their stuffies. But it really did start there. Like that's always who I've been. Is like if you can help to unlock, because everybody has it in them. I mean, I literally have this sitting on my desk, this little rock that someone bought me. Greatness lies within everyone, and if you can unlock it, if I can be of service to help someone unlock their greatness, then the world's better. So we all kind of benefit. And it really did. I mean, my whole life has been about revealing it. And I think that word came, more as an adult when I realized that being the greatness police made it so that people didn't like me. And so then I just stopped doing that. And I just started saying, who wants to be great? And people who would put their hands up, I would then, move hell and high water. And so that's kind of how I always do it now.
Well, and I love that. And I love that you go back to, you said how far back? Of course, go all the way back, right? Because it's important to know where you come from, to know how you got here. And I think for our listeners to understand that as well, this isn't, an afterlife for you. This has been your, your passion, the impact you've made. How many books have you written? You've written quite a few books.
2 books. One in the works.
Yeah, and one in the works. You're saying that out loud. I like it. Does it have a title?
No, because
I won't put you right on that spot.
Because the title of it has changed so many times, but it's pretty profound. I think. I mean, I kind of wrote the 2 books, that were like functional. People read them and they go, "Oh yeah, right. That's cool. I can do that." Yeah. And this one's a little bit more generalized.
Interestingly enough, Thinker Sync comes up because it's all about a little bit of what you just talked about, the power of mindset. And I'm wondering, can you share sort of, even going back to where, you just talked about figure skating in your backyard and setting all that up, but where is that pivotal moment when shifting your mindset led to a significant breakthrough?
This is how Successful Failing got written. So all my life, I've been kind of good at whatever I set my mind to. Well, because I'm a bit of a honey badger, like I just never give up, right? So I'm not necessarily gifted with the gift of being the fastest or whatever, but I'm tenacious and I never quit. So my whole life, my careers, everything. And then when I had those two kids together, right, one after the other, I was brought to my proverbial knees, and it just was like a spiral descent. And I turned to Andrew and said, I gotta do something impossible here. Otherwise, impossible is going to get cemented in stone. So if I do something else impossible, I'll blow the boundary. And so I chose to run a marathon, which again, big deal. Half the people listening to this call ran one last week. But for me, with the needs that I have based on the soccer and all the stuff that I've done in my life, running is not my thing. And when I ran the half marathon a couple of years earlier, it was like a production of physio and whatever. And so Andrew was like, what do you mean you're going to run a marathon? And I was like, no, I got to do this, and I just had 2 babies or whatever. And so I started training, and I was ready, and it was very serendipitous. And I went down to San Francisco to run this marathon, mistake number 1. And there I was, and then mistake number 2 was I let my ego get involved, and I got out with all the enthusiasm, and I was running faster than I planned to run. And I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to blow my time, right? And then mile 17, there's this hill, and it's a mile long. And by the time I get to the top of it, I'm in full froze, and I can't move. Literally, I am frozen. My muscle, every muscle in my body seized, and there's 9 miles left in this race, and I can't move. And so hit the wall is a minor description of what happened. And Andrew happened to be there, which he wasn't supposed to be there. And he didn't do anything. He just stood there, and I was like bawling, and I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to get taken away in one of those things. And it was just like this moment, and I did nothing because I couldn't move. And so I couldn't do anything. And in the moment of nothingness, I got very present to the fact, and Andrew started reading the names on my shirt because you had to raise money for team in training. And I sold real estate on my shirt because I'm lazy. So he was just reading the names, and it hit me. Oh my God, they think I can do it. My mom thinks I can do it. My dad thinks I can do it. The guy I'm running for thinks I can do it. There's only one person here who doesn't think I can do it. And it was really that clear. It was like those 2 wolves, right? And I was like, not feeding you anymore. And it disappeared. And then, and this is a bit, I know people don't believe me, but this is truly what happened. I turned to him, I said, I'm finishing this race because I'm the only one who doesn't think I can, and I just changed my mind. And he was like, okay. And he said, what do you need? And I said, well, and then my body just stopped, like it unfroze. I'm not making it up. And then a complete stranger came out of the wherever. I still, to this day, I'm not convinced that person was there, and handed me like a gel and said, whatever. And then I just started running again. And I couldn't move. And I finished that race. And it was just it was that moment where I was like, I got to write this down because I don't want people to have to go through that to realize that it's the, I have these bits over my head here. It's the bits that you use to make your reality that then gives you your reality. And I was giving fuel to this thing that I couldn't become aware of until I was in that zero state. So that is how I got.
Well, I love that. I love that story. And what I know about you, none of that actually surprises me. So just so you know.
You should have seen me come across the finish line. It looked like Flojo. My friend who was looking after my kids said,
Flojo.
If it didn't say 6 hours and 9 minutes over your head, I would have thought you were winning the marathon, right? Like I sprinted in.
You did win that day,
totally.
Right? You did win that day. You always win that day. So, interestingly, you've done work with our coaches. Lots of coaches have done work with you about mindset. And mindset's so important to what we do with our leaders in Metronomics and the alignment within teams. And so when we're thinking about mindset, how do you see mindset playing that role in achieving alignment in leadership teams?
Okay. So above my head, you can see this little guy, and it says millions, billions, trillions, and then it says 126. So this is critical to understand. And this is a little bit of, you'll like this because this is a computer analogy. So reality, the field, the quantum field, whatever you want to call it, capital R, reality, has millions and millions of bits of information, right? In 1954, they quantified it was about 2 million bits of information. This is the computer scientist, Cribben Miller. So they quantified, and they also quantified that the brain, like the five senses information inflow to the body, can only handle about 126 bits per second. So there's millions available, and we can do 126. So that means that we're filtering out, like we only filter to 0.006%. That means we filter out the majority of reality. That's a data loss of immeasurable size. But once that gets into the mind, we act as if it's capital R reality. So it's not, but we don't have any other information, so we act like it is. And then everything we do, so all of our choices for behavior, emanate from the selection of the data that we chose, and we are constrained. So in my case of the marathon, I had chosen to believe I wasn't capable of this. That was part of my reality, and I couldn't behave otherwise until I kicked out that information and brought in different information. Like, this isn't a metaphor. And so mindset is the understanding, one, you're the filter gate. You're the decider of the information. And two, most of it's not conscious. It's all programmed, right? So you don't see the world the way it is. You see the world the way you are. And then how does that translate into leadership? Well, first of all, self-awareness is the first gate. But then once you make a team, the question is, how much thought have you given to the sameness of the data that's in everybody's mind? If it's not the same, your team is dysfunctional. So values, blah, 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 that's all part of that data.
Yeah. So I love that, because that's all about the alignment. And then if we take it even one step further, like so many leaders, and I don't have to tell you this, struggle with self-doubt, right? Like just struggle with self-doubt. And especially when they're trying to hit like that big, audacious goal, they're in a high growth phase, and what advice, other than, your example of running the marathon was perfect. What advice do you give a leader who's a part of a team that's feeling stuck or unsure of their next step? Because maybe not everyone is, right? How do we help?
Well, I don't give advice. So the first, again, if you're aware that you have a doubt and you're doing nothing about it, that's insane. If you're not aware, and chances are, like me, I wasn't aware. It happened. I became aware, because you got to get, once you're in rock bottom, then everything is pretty clear. So hopefully, what I'm hoping is people don't have to get there. So what I did was like a sort of bootstrappy, kind of mucky way of doing it. But since that time, all of the mechanisms that I've taught to the Metronomics coaches and other coaches, one of the tools stands out more than all of them for resolving doubt, limiting decisions, negative emotions, all of that. And it's something that we that's called timeline therapy. Sounds fancy, but really what it allows us to do is to very carefully constructed processes, and mostly visualization, but using time as the mediator. And you can go back in time and undo the doubt, or go back in time and undo the decision to play small, or whatever it is. And once you do that, and this is not a metaphor, the whole body changes, because again, back to the bits, you've changed the information inside your personal field. So now it's no longer the same. It's gone. It is not a metaphor. The body changes, the mind changes, your choices change, and then your results change.
So I love that, because, what you're known for is all about breakthroughs, right? Breaking through the barrier, breaking through our own barriers. What are some of the most powerful techniques in breakthroughs and breaking through any barrier?
Well, the only thing that's required, and this is where people kind of mistake me for a Pollyanna. I'm not. I'm very pragmatic. But I'll say that any reality is possible. And that's the quantum physicist in me. Any reality is possible, but not any reality is probable, because realities are based on our programming. So the only thing you need to break through anything, the only thing, is the burning desire and then that honey badger willingness to give what it takes. If you have those two things, literally anything is possible. Now, that doesn't mean anything is easy, but it means anything is possible. And then, the techniques that we teach, I can only speak about what we teach at Greatness U, right? NLP, timeline therapy, hypnosis. These are mechanistic mind models that we use to get around the conscious mind so that we can work with the programs that are stored. But I always say this, and maybe it's a stupid thing to do from a competition standpoint, but every technique works as long as the participant has a burning desire and a willingness to follow the technique. Like, they have to do it.
Right. Love that. Yeah. Love that. When we think of, when you're working with a leader who's looking to break through, right? What's the process? What does someone go through? How do they do it? Because a lot of people are going, yeah, I want to do that. I need to get over myself. When they engage with you, what happens?
With me, breakthroughs happen when you recognize that you're more energy than matter, right? So people are kind of addicted to this material world, right? They're addicted to they look at the world and they go, oh, this is the way it is. And I go, no, that's the way it was. Now you're seeing the projection in reality. So it's like a feedback delay, right? Again, I'm using a lot of engineering terms because that's where I come from. But so we are more energy than matter. And if you can liberate the potential inside you, then you can change anything. It's like, the metaphor is this. Let's say we had a table and the table had a crooked leg, right? We could stick a thing under the table and that would fix the wobble. But let's say we had a whole factory full of tables that had crooked legs, then now we're talking about a lot of maintenance. Versus throwing that out, going back to the blueprint of the table, fixing the missed leg, fix the blueprint, and then produce 1 million tables and they'll all stand straight. So with leaders, it's about recognizing where in your results do you see that something's missing, but going back to the blueprint, right? That's what I do with people. Forget about the tasking. So can we see? Yeah, can you see the? Oh no, it's covered by my plant. So the process of change says first you got to make the change. You got to learn the new program. So you got to go in, pull out, Windows 95. Okay, that's not appropriate anymore. It was good at the time, but it's not good anymore. So you got to pull it out. Then you've got to put the new one in. So whatever that is. And then you have to make it the dominant pattern. So you have to make it like, you clear your cache or whatever you have to make it so that you can't not do it that way. So coaching kind of has two phases. One is first you got to go in and get that program and chuck it out. And that we teach people how to loosen the attachment to their 126. And then once they've made the new program, then coaching is about tasking and repeating and holding them accountable until they can't not do it that way. And that's sort of that's it. That's working with me in a nutshell.
So when we think about, okay, so you probably see a commonality amongst the limiting beliefs of the leaders you work with. I hate to say that, but you probably do. What are the top 3 you see most often? And, what of your different techniques, and maybe it's a little bit of all of them, do you use to help them over?
Yeah, the common factor in my private roster, okay? And this isn't the students at Greatness U. This is just the students at Greatness U, they're all kinds of walks of life, right? But the common factor in my private roster is someone who's successful. In fact, when you look at them, they're like the end game for the average person. They're like, I want to be like them, right? They make money, they have a business, they're pretty successful. But when you ask them, when I say to them, okay, so if 10 is your maximum potential, what are you working at? And they're always like 4, 5, 6. So they're doing it, but it's not even hard, but they're kind of embarrassed because nobody can do what they do. But they're like, I'm not really tapping in here. So I'm not using my highest potential. And then I doubt that I doubt myself, like that imposter sort of, why me, right? And then the worst one, which is it's not okay. Like this idea of the tall poppy, right? So it's not okay because at some point in my past, I got my ass kicked for being great. And so, Marianne Williamson captured it in A Return to Love when she said, there's nothing enlightened about shrinking so small that others feel like less insecure around you. And so that's the thing is they're like, I'm kind of just doing this because it's too risky. Like, I don't want to be, people are jealous or mean or, they cut the tall poppy down. So they're dimming their greatness, so to speak, as a survival tactic, right? It's like, you do a cartwheel on the school ground and your best friend goes, I hate your guts because you're a show off. Like that's where that comes from. Girls performing in math and then it affecting their social life. So them pretending that they're stupid so that they can have a date. Right? That's what happens to girls in technology. So that shows up in real leaders. They're not using their full gamut. And the shock is that they're achieving. And I always go, but what could this person do if we lit them up?
Right. And if you think of, as you know, one of the cornerstones of Metronomics is creating a rhythm, getting that, rhythm that's going to drive growth. And it's driving growth of the leader, driving growth of the team, and then the results, we're looking for growth of the company. How, when you work with, because I know you work with high growth leaders, I know you work with high growth coaches, how does your work, with leaders align with creating that system that helps them, today, but foster that consistent growth going forward?
Well, it's a big part of what we do. And when we teach, so at Greatness U, when we teach our classes, we kind of say they're personal development classes that we teach at certification standards so that people who work with people like coaches, leaders, can feel confident that they can actually articulate this with somebody else. But the real work is personal, right? So you've got to do the work. So getting through point C is an ordeal. It's not, like me in that marathon, like there was nothing pleasant about it. Everybody thinks enlightenment and growth is like, oh, but the caterpillar is going to turn into a butterfly. It's so great. And I go, the caterpillar has to get reduced to a pile of goo first. Okay? So can we just talk about that? That's not pleasant. So that's an ordeal. Getting through point C takes real courage. Okay? Once you get through point C, that's great. It feels great. Like, oh, thank God. Then you have to be like a drill sergeant. So that's the part that most people don't do. Most coaches think point C is the goal. No. That's just the beginning. Once you've got somebody who's touched the new operating, then it has to become, so you have to have practices, daily practices, morning practices, team practices, right? Like you got to get it into like normalized so that it's like, oh, you guys don't do this? Like you don't start every meeting with a quick heart coherence so that everybody's on the same frequency? Oh, we do. Like,
yeah. And when you take that from your experience, what's the most overlooked factor when it comes to creating high performance teams, right? And how can leaders address it? Because at the end of the day, we need the whole team, the whole leadership team to be high performing, right? We're looking for the leaders not only be great individually, but as a team. What's the most overlooked thing from your experience that you see over?
The biggest thing I think is that you think that someone else is going to do it. And I think like it's like the growth of, so they use a Metronomics coach, 3 years, they got that thing humming like a well-oiled machine. Now the growth of the company is restricted to the development of its leader. Well, that's the same for the team, right? Because the team is like a multifaceted projection of the leader's light and darkness, so to speak, shadow and light. And so all the issues are right there. And leaders make the mistake of thinking that the other person needs to be fixed. If you want to be a leader, there is no other person. There's you. That's it. I'm sorry to kind of burst the victim bubble, but it doesn't mean that they don't exist, but your experience of them is coming from something in you that's trying to resolve. Because you said you wanted to resolve it. So like Khalil Gibran said, I've learned kindness from the unkind, tolerance from the intolerance. And why to these teachers am I ungrateful? So
yeah. And I love what you just said, because when we think of, our seventh system is the coach cascade system. And it's all about taking the self-awareness and the transparency to the next level. And as the CEO is elevating those leaders with, right, in order to actually keep up with the growth of the organization. And those that can't find themselves there actually, or don't have the awareness, much harder to keep the growth of the organization going. And I know we've chatted about the coach cascade, and it doesn't get turned on in our world till like the middle of the momentum phase. But when I think of that, it's sort of like leaders find themselves in many situations, right? Many situations, going from this compounding growth they experienced at one point, they fall back. They're now, trying to build it back up. Same person living the same thing and trying to find it in themselves to stay with it and move it along. What are the 3 keys to leadership in your opinion, in any situation?
Okay. I just want you to see, I have my fingers like this because
so
when you were talking about it, I was like, okay, I'm going to tell her how I read the M Game in a sauna once. Okay. And I think I texted you after I read it because I had this revelation after I read it. I was like, there's 3 things that leaders need to do. And if they do it, so I had my fingers on my lap to sort of prompt me. It's funny that you said that. So this literally, I wrote this on the blank page of the book because I was highlighting it. So it's written in a highlighter.
Yes.
Literally on the copy that you gave me when I was in Whistler. So
yes.
Be at cause. And what does that mean? It means not be at blame. So number 1 is be at cause. You are the causal point of your experience. You are not to blame. Yeah. You are not capital, it's not you orchestrating the world, but be at cause, because if you're at effect, then you don't have your power. So be at cause. Yeah. Number 2, create connections. So rapport with people, rapport with ideas, create connections with the data, right, that we're pulling in.
Yes.
So create connections so that everybody's got the same data set. And then the third one is adapt. And then after you've adapted, adapt.
Yeah.
Okay. And then adapt. Right. And those were the 3 things. I was like, I was going to write a book. It's been written. That's where when I said I was going to write another book, I was like, oh, that's what I'm going to write it about. But I'm not. I'm going way deeper into the metaphysics of it.
Well, I can't wait for that next book. No, and we need to bring you back to talk about that, because the other thing that is definitely on my mind is on the mind of many leaders, athletes, high performers is, how can you remain in a peak performance state during a challenge or a crisis? How can you remain there?
So one of the things, we used to teach NLP, timeline therapy, hypnosis, coaching, right? So Acme coaching and NLP coaching. And one of the things we've added, even since that time, is teaching resilience advantage through by HeartMath. So HeartMath has all these resilience programs. And we added them to our program, to our trainings, because people are needing more resilience. It's like how do you lift the heaviest weight you've ever lifted? Well, you train, right? And so resilience training when you don't need it. So I get up every day and I get 15 minutes. I do my HeartMath resilience training. This is not meditation. This is not yoga. This is not anything. I'm looking at a biofeedback device and I'm tracking my coherence, and that's the connection between my heart and my brain. Are they in sync or are they not? And 15 minutes a day of this practice, after 4 months, the data, and it's been replicated a gazillion times, shows a baseline shift in capacity, in resilience. It's indisputable. And I teach a program when I speak called The Science of Intuition, and we use this technology to help leaders tap into their intuition. But the base practice, I'm like, look, it's not sexy, it's not glamorous, you're not zenning out on some mountain. You're just doing this practice for 15 minutes a day so that your resilience is more plastic, so that when there is a challenge, you just have more capacity, period.
Yeah. I love that. And, it's, I guess when I think to the impact you've made on athletes using that technique, and I can, raise my hand for my own, some up and comers. Yeah. It's just so, like, I love how you just described that. It's getting your brain and your heart like aligned, right? And being able to, you're practicing it. You're practicing it for when you
right. And what it's doing is it's tuning your fine. Think of it like, when you learn how to write or something and you work on fine motor skills. So it's tuning your fine responsiveness to be more finely tuned. So instead of a gross tuning, it's a fine tuning so that a micro change you can respond and it doesn't knock you off. And so you can imagine in athletics, this is like no brainer, right? And in life, theoretically, things aren't happening as quickly as they would be in an intense athletic competition. So they're not happening, but they're still intense. So theoretically, then it should be like heart maths programs were all designed for police officers in domestic situations, PTSD, overcare in hospitals. These are like high. It's not a, people go, oh, I love it. It's so relaxing. No, you don't understand what it is.
Yeah.
It's training.
It's for very intense,
right? It's
very
training.
intense situations. So I have 2 more questions for you if you go for it. This has been so fun. Okay, so I just want to know, what's one piece of advice or mantra you live by that has shaped both your personal and professional life?
Never, ever, ever quit. And if you're going through hell, keep going. I love Winston Churchill. Love that. I don't know, if a honey badger could talk, that's what it would say.
Yeah. Looking ahead, what excites you most about the future of leadership development, its impact on business, and the work that you're doing?
Well, think about it like this. If there's all these people who are already successful and you unlock their greatness, then they kind of like explode, right? And theoretically, with the rise in consciousness in business, if those people are the ones leading the world, right, in all facets of our economy, then that's the biggest impact I can make, because it's like scaling humans, right? I'm in the business of scaling greatness. So if we can get the people who have, passionate, meaningful values, expressions in their business, they want to make a difference. All they need to do is tap their own. It's already there. They just have to tap it. And if I know how to do that, it's my responsibility to go out there and kind of sort through the people who really want it. And again, it's not a run through the meadow. This is work. These are very brave people. Because the baseline of humans is that, oh, I can't do it because that person's greater than me. Absolutely not. Greatness is literally in every person. And it's my job to, unlock those who raise their hand.
Well, I love the passion that you bring to all of this, and I expect nothing less from you and everything I know. For our listeners who are eager, they're eager to learn more, to break through to their own greatness. And, usually this is on people's minds. how can they learn more about you, your work, and where's the best place for them to start?
Well, I don't know, because people like all different channels. I'm on every social media channel, but I'm most active on LinkedIn. Like, there's just no question.
Okay.
LinkedIn,
Okay.
because I'm a business person's business, right? So,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
it's LinkedIn, but I have a link tree, and the link tree
Yeah.
gets updated more than anything. Plus, it has all my socials on it, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
my link tree is just Gina Mollicone, and it's got all my socials. So, whatever your preference, it's got some websites, probably got some free webinars on there. And then that way you can ingest the information in your preferred mode.
Nice. And there's lots of preference. What if someone's listening and they're like, I need to get going now. I need to reach out to you. What's the best way?
GinaMollicone.com.
There we go. Perfect. Perfect. Well, I want to thank you, number one, for being here, two, sharing insights. Your passion never disappoints, from the story of your backyard to here. I love that, because it's all about our experience. And you've definitely, given me lots to think about, lots to our listeners to think about. And I'm really excited for the next time we connect, because we'll be talking about your book on this podcast.
That is the plan.
And
I mean, I thank you so much for having me. It's I love kind of getting the information out, and it, releases a little internal pressure when I can.
And that is something I know about you. It will just get it out there, and we'll get going.
I need to serve. Like, I got to tell you, I gave up being the greatness police, but like, I just, every once in a while, I'm like, come on, man.
That is a perfect way to end this podcast. Thank you so much
for having me.
Tip Top is brought to you by Metronomics.
To find out more about Metronomics and how this proven 20-year-old system will save you time and money as you grow up your business,
visit metronomics.com. That is metronomics.com.
Share your thoughts on today's episode in the comments and suggest topics you'd love us to explore the next time.
Also search for Metronomics in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else that great podcasts are found.